Welcome. We'll go ahead and get started here. So welcome everyone. My name is Olga Escamilla and I have Elizabeth Moya here. We are with Train PD at TCAL. And today you are here for social media, teaching about its impact. Our presenters today are Victoria Hinojosa and Jasmine Grabowski. One of our presenters is Jasmine Grabowski, and Jasmine is passionate about serving others. She has a background in teaching and she recently served with the Summer Earn and Learn program. That's a youth program. She's a graduate of Texas State University. She has a BA in German and earned a job coach certification from the University of North Texas Workplace Inclusion and Sustainable Employment Program in 2019. Her goal is to continue supporting her community by helping adults and students reach their fullest potential. So welcome, Jasmine. We also have Victoria Hinojosa, and she specializes in training and educating community partners, workforce solution staff, and job seekers throughout the 13-county region. She served over 8 years at Texas State University Career Services Center as a recruiting coordinator, preparing college students for the workforce. And she's a graduate of Texas State University with a BA in mass communications. So welcome, Victoria. And at this time, I'm going to go ahead and turn over the presentation to Victoria. So Victoria, take it away.
Fabulous. Okay, so welcome. I'm Victoria Hinojosa, as you know, and we're going to talk to you about social media, teaching about its impact. All right, so the purpose of today's presentation is to first of all, with the pandemic, we've all experienced a heavy reliance on social media and virtual communication as our main source for connecting and networking with everyone. And this is not new to the recruiting process, but it is now absolutely become vital to the recruitment process. So what we're trying to do is we want to give you some tips and talk to you about some of the pitfalls that you can then talk to your students about so that they can build up their own personal brands to attract employers. And we'll give you some tools that you can take back to your classroom to teach your students on how to manage their social media profiles. We've planned this webinar to be very interactive, so we encourage you to add your comments in the chat box and also to answer the polls when they come up. So without further ado, let's get started. So we have our objectives today are to illustrate how social media impacts job opportunities, understand what to do to protect yourself, and then learn how to build a personal brand and maximize social media for the job search. And today we've invited our friend and colleague and social media expert, Tiffany Armington. Tiffany is our newly appointed career navigator supervisor. She works with the Workforce Solutions regional team in the Houston-Galveston area. And prior to her new role, she served as a facilitator on the regional team and has been instrumental in developing the regional team's social media presence. Her expertise include implementing social media strategies, engaging with customers on social networks, fostering the adoption of social media tools, and writing blog posts. She also monitors the internet for related job search topics and generates followers. So we've invited Tiffany to be a part of our discussion today to answer some of our questions and some of yours, and offer tips and advice on utilizing social media for the job search. So welcome, Tiffany. We're so glad to have you.
Thank you, Jasmine. Thank you for having me here today. I'm excited for us to discuss social media.
Yay. Okay, so got a question for you. Let's start off the bat. Okay. What is the most common mistake people make on social media?
Well, there are a lot of common mistakes, but I can say the most common mistake is that people thinking that their social media is an open platform for freedom of speech. They're not realizing that there are consequences that come with that they will receive from the public if they post whatever that comes to mind, whatever they feel that they should put out in the internet. So what I've seen is that people would think that their social media is their personal diary. And
Oh,
the main common mistakes.
yeah, that's a good point. So, as a matter of fact, we've got a few examples of people thinking social media is their personal diary or their personal photo, memory book. And unfortunately, I think when people have done that, they've gotten a little too candid, even some harmless things, and it just blows up in their faces and they get publicly humiliated for it. So we've got 5 examples on how careers have been ruined due to bad social media posts. So let's start with number 1. Or number 5 actually, is Ashley Payne. She lost her job as a high school teacher after some parents complained about her photos on Facebook. In a photo from her trip to Europe, Payne is holding 2 drinks in both hands. Seems innocent enough. I mean, that's what you do when you go to Europe, right? It's what you do when you travel. You go on vacation, you relax, you enjoy the atmosphere, you imbibe a little bit. So I guess this was not seen as suitable for a high school teacher's image. And so she was given a choice either to resign or be suspended. She chose to resign. And then later she tried to sue the school to get her job back, but lost the lawsuit in the end. To me, this is a bit crazy. I think this is just, like I said, you go to Europe. I went to Europe at 16. The drinking laws are much more relaxed. You can drink at 16 in Europe. And I did. It was fun, but she doesn't look like she's getting snot slobbered drunk. She just looks like she's having a good time.
Well, think about it. She's representing her school. Everywhere she goes, she's representing the company that she works for.
And that's the point. Okay. Oops. Hey. So I think you're right. So that's the point. So speaking of representing your employer, here's another one. So number 4 is the disgruntled Apple employee, Samuel Crisp, who decided to vent his angst with the company on his Facebook feed. One of his friends happened to be an Apple employee who tipped off a manager, and then consequently, Crisp was fired for breaching their business conduct policy. So I think this is a classic example of what you were just talking about. You do represent the company. Anything you say, especially when you're ranting about your own company publicly like this, you don't want to bite the hand that feeds you.
That makes sense. Right. I agree.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Victoria, we had a comment from Cornelius. He's about the teacher. He said,
Okay.
That seems overboard to me. She isn't doing anything illegal.
I agree with you. Tiffany, what do you think about that?
I mean, she's not doing anything illegal, but when we look at social media, we have to make sure we have a certain presence, especially depending on where we work. So as a teacher, she's not representing well for the students that she teach. So that goes back to there's consequences from the public.
So maybe maybe the lesson here is don't share your Facebook page with your students.
That's one of them. Don't share with your students, but also, anyone can screenshot and get it back to the teachers, get it back to the parents or the students. So just don't post it. Have fun, but do you have to share it on social media?
Yeah, that's what people do. That's the whole reason for social media. It's to get it out there, say, hey, look at me, look what I've done. That's what it's about, right? It's
their personal diary again, or their personal photo memory.
She went to Europe. That's what everybody does. They post pictures of their stellar vacations and their, super envious lifestyle, or their pseudo envious lifestyle. It's an opportunity to brag on yourself and say, hey, I'm living the dream here. Look at me. Isn't that what social media is?
Without setting a bad example for her students.
Okay, well, let's take a look. Yeah, I don't disagree, but at the same time, here's another one. Let's look at number 3. In December of 2013, Justine Sacco took a flight from New York back to her homeland, Cape Town, South Africa, to spend the Christmas holidays with the family. While on her flight, she posted several tweets to her 170 Twitter followers. Amongst her tweets, she posted, "Going to Africa. Hope I don't get AIDS." Just kidding, I'm white. Sacco claims the post was meant to be a satirical comment mocking American ignorance of South Africa. Unfortunately for Sacco, no one on the internet, including her employer, saw her post as a joke. The reaction to the post was so severe, Sacco was fired before she landed at the airport, and people eagerly awaited her response to the news on hashtag has Justine landed yet. So humor, obviously, or satirical humor does not translate well on the internet.
Right.
There's that lesson. When you think you're being cute and funny and witty, don't do it.
And also think about this, Victoria. She only had 177 followers, but she went viral. That means
Yeah.
people saw this post.
So it got retweeted and retweeted and retweeted, in other words. So it went crazy viral. And yeah, within the span of what, 7 or 8 hours, she lost her job. So within a day, she was fired. Yeah, I mean, it's you do have to be careful what you say. And you know, she was trying to be witty, and it totally backfired on her, which is a shame because she was a public relations executive. You would think she would know better, but you know, again, our arrogance gets in the way, and we think we're being cute, and voila, we're now unemployed, and our whole career has been trashed. All right, number 2. In 2015, Chicago's Brookfield Zoo employee Rochelle Robinson decided to vent her frustrations at work on Facebook and announced that she's serving rude-ass white people. Instead of sympathy, the post garnered a wave of negative attention that not only forced her to quit her job, but she was also compelled to change her name on Facebook. Okay, now that's just sad.
Right. And she also tagged the zoo that she works for.
Yeah, I mean, look at her. She's in uniform too. I mean, come on.
That's crazy.
But, you know, so she thought, you know, okay, this is cool. I'm just, you know, she's, you know, what do we say? She's definitely flaunting her attitude here. And even the picture speaks 1,000 words. She's bored. She's not happy. She wanted attention, and boy, she got it. Okay. Number 1. Now this was awesome. So this just happened in November after the presidential election. Here we go. Number 1 huge career mistake was on Monday, November 16th, 2020, Dr. Paul Ewell, a tenured professor of management, business, and economics at Virginia Wesleyan University, ended his career after his private Facebook post went public. Someone took a screenshot of the post, as you can tell, because the posting is a little bit slanted. So you can tell this hasn't been reposted. It's a picture. And it was leaked to the local newspaper websites. The post went viral and was picked up by several news outlets as far away as the United Kingdom. President Trump, this probably made it worse for this poor guy, retweeted an Associated Press version of the story that has now been retweeted nearly 38,000 times. However, the outrage among students, parents, and alumni exploded, culminating in his resignation. So Dr. Ewell offered a sincere public apology regretting his remarks and asked for forgiveness. But the president of the college or the university sent out an email on Monday that following Monday stating that the school must be a place that embraces open dialogue and celebrates individual differences and opinions. And while they do respect Dr. Ewell's right to free speech, his comments, particularly coming from a dean of the institution, contradict the values and culture that are such a valued part of who they are as a community and a university. And they must be led by individuals who cherish and nurture this. So, you know, that's a shame. This poor guy it was on his private feed. But if you read it, it's pretty scathing. It's not a good example of Christian love and forgiveness, and he really screwed this one up. Any comments from you guys?
Did he have to post it, Victoria? That's something. If he really truly felt that way, then he could have spoken to a friend. But putting it out on the internet, look how that happened. What happened there, and how did that work out for him?
Yeah. I agree with Tiffany's statement.
Yeah, someone in our chat group said private's not really private. You're right, it's not. So, yeah, unfortunately, we all have to learn the hard way sometimes. Okay, so, but with that being said, we're now seeing that not only does the public, that I think is the bigger problem. I really think it's the public. Once you put it out there, the public is going to be the one who's going to shame you and scrutinize everything that you say and do. And, it wasn't the employer that was reprimanding him as badly as it was the outrage from everybody who didn't believe in what he believed. Which leads me to another comment about all of this too. If you go out there and I even saw examples when I was researching this and putting this webinar together. I saw other examples of people who just put out their opinion in a very nice, calm way. But if it was if it went against public opinion even in the slightly goes against public opinion, the public is ravenous and just will shred you to pieces.
Right.
There was an example of a football player, an NFL football player, who made a comment on the amount of hatred that was being displayed after, the capture and death of Osama bin Laden. Granted, America's number one enemy, got that, but at the same time, he was very concerned about how people were reacting and how we were just allowing that hatred to just take over. And he made a very valid point, but he lost his endorsements. He lost, basically ended up retiring from the NFL as a result. I mean, that's just an example of how crazy this gets. So if you become a pariah due to one of your social media website, postings, then guess what? Employers aren't going to pick you up because as Tiffany has been telling us, you represent the company. And so the company wants to make sure that you are going to represent their values and their image, because we do represent every single day, even when we're not at work. We represent our employers. We represent that company. We are what we do. And that's that perception, that's that image, that's that personal brand that we're going to talk about a little bit more so in a minute. So I love this. I don't know if you've read this, but I really love this cartoon, which is a great segue into, employers do Google you. They do research you, research their candidates before they bring them in for an interview. We can Google someone, I don't know if you've Googled if those of you who are dating, if you've Googled the guy or the woman or the person that you want to go out with to see, get some dirt on them or just figure out who they are as a person, you might Google them. Or you might, I don't know. We've become I think we've just become a group of stalkers now. And employers, oh my gosh, listen to this. Okay, so, I found out that employers not only can Google, but they have access to people search engines. So I read on this blog, Cake HR blog, that listed different people search engines that HR managers can use to really dig up the dirt on the job candidates. There's one called Pipl, P-I-P-L. And it is described as a persistent people search engine that scours the deep web, and in parentheses, the deep web, to find information about someone anywhere in the world. It will return photos, publications, blog entries, donations that you've made, social and professional networking profiles, and other sources that normal search engines don't touch. Just think about that for a second. They go where no other search engine has gone before. They really search that deep, deep, deep web. Not only do they find the skeletons in the closet, but they figure out where you buried the bodies. Then they dig them up and then they show the world. This is scary. I'm sorry, I got freaked out when I saw this. What do you think about this, Tiffany?
Don't post it.
But it goes beyond what you've posted. So let's say you got interviewed for something in the newspaper. I have stuff that that I've done in my past. I have a theater background. if somebody took a picture or wrote up a review about me, you know, when I did community theater in my 20s, is that going to come back and haunt me in a job interview later? I mean, this is what's scary. This is, I mean, it's been several years. I'm not 20 anymore. I'm a long way past 20. So, I mean, what is this? I'm just curious as to how deep this sucker goes. Because, you know, what I did in my 20s is not who I am today. That's another thing.
That's why it's best that, you know, you did it in your 20s, but you've had over the years to be able to fix and clean up any image that you may have out there. So if someone is searching and going deep down, getting those bodies, bringing them up, if they see that somewhere in your life you have changed, you still have a chance. Now, if you take away this type of information, knowing that someone can find anything in your background and you continue to post anything that's negative or put anything out on the internet that's negative, then that's when that can hurt you in a negative way when it comes to looking for a job in the future.
Okay. Good point. Very good point. So I got a question for you, Tiffany. If you make your social media private, you know, we've made this comment that private isn't necessarily private. And with the employer, they can see everything. So I guess here's the question. How beneficial is it when you're trying to market yourself for a job if you keep yourself private or if you don't have a social media account at all? Because to be perfectly honest, I don't do social media. So am I hurting myself by not doing social media because I don't want people to know about if they want to know me, they need to see me, they need to talk to me. Because I have another issue with all of this too. You know, the other problem is people put their absolute best foot forward. I mean, we Photoshop everything. We've got the same technology that the magazines have to make ourselves look glamorous and, you know, and inflate this image of who we really, really are. I mean, we've been laughing about this on TV sitcoms too, about, you know, those dating site services that everybody makes themselves look, you know, sexier, hotter, 10 years younger, you know, 20 pounds skinnier than they really are.
Right. I agree with you,
Right.
Victoria, on that as well.
So how
Filters. Yeah.
how valid is this?
Okay, so take it back to the question of, is it beneficial for you to have a social media? Will it help you if you didn't have a social media? No, it will not help you. It is beneficial for you to have social media platforms because people are looking at your resume. They're looking at whatever application you may have put in, the employers, but they want to see like an online profile of you. They want to see, who is Victoria? Who is this person? And why should we bring her in for an interview? So it is best to have a social media, but you have to be careful on what you post.
Okay.
We all know that we were stating earlier that social media is not private. It may say it is, but it's not. So making sure that you have positive posting. Also, you want to post anything that's related towards the job, the industry field that you're looking into, and make sure that those posts are definitely public. So if you run across a smaller company that doesn't have a search engine like Pipple, and they're only looking through Google, then you may have a chance of them only seeing what you post that's public.
Okay, I think we've got a lot. Thank you for that, Tiffany. But we've got a lot of comments going on in the chat box that I want to bring out. So Cornelius was talking about memes, you know, are also, you have to be careful about what you do on your memes because even though you're still expressing something bad and it may be, you're still expressing your opinion one way or the other. It may be funny, but you have to be careful because it could be good or bad depending on the meme. And then I think Soha said that she thinks it depends on the position. For example, if you're applying for a PR or social media position, then it's definitely would help you to have, I'm assuming, a social media account. But if you are applying for a position that doesn't require those skills, then maybe not. And someone else said, Alexandra said she agreed.
Okay.
That makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, because
So-
otherwise I don't think I'll ever work another day in my life if I lose this job because I don't do social media. So, and after this whole conversation and after everything I've just researched, I don't want to do social media. This is scary. So, okay. So real quick, let's take it. We've got a poll that we want to do real quickly for everybody. Is there a federal law that prohibits employers from requesting job applicants and employees give them access to their social media account? Is this true or false? Okay, so far we've got false, 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 false. You're right. And we have a false question. So Tiffany, what's the answer to this?
Well, these guys, they've been here before. It's definitely a false.
Okay, so if the federal government doesn't have any laws prohibiting employers from requesting job applicants and employees give them access to their social media account, what about the states? Do the states have this kind of law too? What do you guys think? Yes or no? So far, we're getting no's, falses. No. Cornelius is going to say no. Okay, got it. As Frida said, no. It's social media and it's public. Okay. No, you're right. Well, in my research, I discovered that some states do and some states don't. And those of us who live in the great state of Texas, the answer is no. There is no law protecting us from an employer coming to you and requesting access to your social media accounts. Now, Tiffany, what about, I don't know what you think about this, but I don't think that they'll actually request that they have access to your username and password.
I mean, I haven't seen any employers request that information. They typically have already researched you before they brought you in for an interview, during the interview, and also after the interviewing process. But it's just scary to know that there isn't a law that protects us as employees, as job candidates, that the employer does have that option if they wanted to see.
Okay. Yep. I guess you're right. Now I have seen people, or have heard that employers may ask you to pull up your social media accounts so that they can look at it and see your private settings. But, when you've got search engines like Pipple out there, you're right. They don't need to do that anymore. Okay. So let's get into, what do you recommend people do to protect themselves, Tiffany?
Well, I would recommend that everyone place your settings like on private when it comes to social media, Instagram, when it comes to Facebook. Try to place your settings on private so you can only allow certain people to be in your friend mix to see what's on your post. Now, with setting it for private, remember, we still want to make an online presence for our job, for any type of job that we're searching for and applying for. So you want to make specific posts public. And those specific posts can be posts that's geared towards volunteer work, geared towards any type of education or training that you may have received in that type of field. And make sure that those posts are public, but always public or private. Just post positive content. Get in the habit of posting only positive content. I know that you have an activity that everyone can benefit from to see what is positive.
Absolutely. So we have something called a social media rubric, and this is something that you can share with your students to help them see, kind of evaluate their own social media. So the way this works is, if you've got positive sharing, which is what Tiffany was talking about, anything that's under the positive sharing, you get points for. So let's say if you're posting things on work experience, work-related skills, your interpersonal skills, anything that highlights this, you get 2 points per item. And then let's say you're sharing things about your groups, your teams, sports, clubs, or your volunteering experience, your college, your career goals, anything along those lines, you get a 1.4. Now, if you go through your social media platforms and your accounts and you look and you realize that, oh, I'm doing really good here. I've got 6 points because I've got 6 points of positive sharing. Then you need to look at your negative sharing. So for each negative thing, if you posted something about politics, religion, or news items, this gets a little bit iffy. I'm assuming in this category we're talking about negative or divisive news items. So things that are going to polarize people, or potentially, where that there's, it's a divided topic. So if there's, a heated topic, then don't post anything about that. So if you are, if you're pro-choice or if you're pro-life, I would stay away from those types of things, or, and I would, anything that could be possibly incendiary, incite a lot of argument, you want to stay away from those things. And then if you post anything on alcohol, that's a -2, guns, violence, anything along those lines, then you're going to take 2 points off for each item. And then the thing with profanity, spelling, grammar errors, a negative job, or school talk. So let's talk about this for just a second, because that was something else that was really brought home to me from some of those blogs that I was reading on this topic, that recruiters are going to scrutinize your social media content. So they're going to look at your spelling mistakes, your grammar errors. And if you have any spelling or grammar errors on your posts, then you get to take 3 points off for that. So let's say you start off with 6, but you've got, you've misspelt something, or you've got comma errors, grammatical errors, then you get to take 3 points off per error. So you may have started off with 6 and now you got 0. Because you had 2 errors, which cost you 3 points apiece, and now you're down to nothing. And the same thing with if you've got anything related to drugs, sex, or if you are flaming by name. If you know what that means, it means that if you're talking badly about somebody, or if you're ranting about someone and you name them, then that's flaming by name. And that is a huge no-no. That's a big -4. It's basically hate speech, and we really need to get away from all that. So once you go through your profiles, you take a look at this, then the next thing you want to do is see where you rate. So let's, if you've got a +6 points, you're doing really well. If you, and you can see, as you lose points, you can see that, okay, you've got some blemishes, but still you're sharing good things. So, minor cleanup is needed. If you got 0 points to 2, then you're sharing a little too much. Think before you share. If you're in the negatives, between a -1 and -3, your bad outweighs your good. You need to tip the scales back to a positive sharing, take off that negative stuff and put something positive on there. And then if you're a -4 to a -7, not good, major cleanup required, go under construction. And if it's if you're at a -8 points or lower, oh my gosh, just scrap it, do it over, tear it down, change your name, do something different. Any comments? Any questions? I think I saw the chat box lighting up. Do we have any questions in the chat box? I had to put a complaint on social media about Walmart to get my issue resolved. Oh, okay. Well, that's interesting. So be careful. Okay, that's a great point. Now, I've seen that done before where it backfired on somebody because they didn't have all the facts. But if you, sometimes you might have to publicly shame a company to get a service. You might be right on that. You just have to be careful. This is a very powerful sword that we're wielding. And if it's used for good, okay. But if you're out there to, I would say, to seek justice or to seek, to right a wrong, and you're doing it out of an altruistic or a pure motivation, then okay. But if you're out there to slam somebody, flame them by name because you're angry and it's all about you, then you're walking a really fine line. And I've seen people's lives be destroyed over that as a result. So that's a good point, though, Will. And then Cornelia said, is there a way to see what other people see when they visit my social media page? Well, and I think that's what this rubric does. It helps you see what they see. And then, of course, you can Google yourself to find out what comes up. And I think we talk about that a little bit later. So excellent questions, excellent points.
Also to add for Cornelius, you can, it's an option for Facebook for you to view yourself as a visitor. So that option is typically under your profile picture, and you'll change view yourself as a visitor, and then you can scroll through and see what people who that's not on your social media see.
Okay, excellent. Excellent. I didn't know that about Facebook. That's great. Okay, well, without further ado, I think we're going to now transition into how to maximize your social media presence for your online job search. And I'm going to hand the presentation over to Jasmine.
All right. Thank you so much, Victoria. All right. So you guys have received a lot of information. So like Victoria mentioned, we are going to get into how to maximize your social media on presence. So that's something you can share with your students. So you do want to let your students know that if they have an online presence, it can certainly help them in their job search, because what recruiters and hiring managers do, they determine how your students compare to other applicants. And most jobs nowadays are actually gained through networking and not just based on sending out resumes and applications. Most jobs, that I've gotten have been through networking, and that's just the way of the world, especially now with us being virtual. A lot of jobs are gained through networking. And so with social media, basically gives your students as job seekers a broader spectrum of networking through using those highly interactive platforms. So that's definitely something that you can keep in mind to share with your students. And now we are going to have a poll question for you guys. Okay, so the question is, you should only use one social media platform to increase your online presence. Is that true or false, hit or myth? What do you guys think? So you should actually use several social media platforms, because again, you are increasing your social media presence by having several social media platforms. So it definitely does. It definitely does help if you are job seeking. All right. So some of y'all saying false. Okay. All right. So we're going to go ahead and continue on. So several social media platforms, as I just stated, is a good idea and is good for your online presence. And so now I want to get into personal branding. Okay. So one way that you can do that, one way you can increase your social media presence, is what I'm trying to say, is by creating your own personal brand. So it's much like, companies like Starbucks, for example. One of my friends always says Starbucks has their own culture, and it's true. They have their own brand. They're very unique. And so it's the same thing with social media. So you can share with your students that by building their personal brand, they're increasing their chances of landing a job position. So you guys are probably wondering, what does that look like? Well, if your students are branding themselves on social media, then that basically means that they are gaining a sense of understanding themselves. And what that consists of is them sharing their talents, experiences, and abilities, and how that makes them unique and set apart from their competition. And again, you do want to encourage them to use several social media platforms. And now we have another question for our social media expert, Ms. Tiffany. And the question is, what are your recommendations for keeping a consistent online presence?
Okay, so one would say, you stated earlier, you want to make sure that you have several social media platforms so you can engage others and set yourself apart. By doing that, if there is such a thing as overposting or not posting enough.
Okay.
So I would recommend posting 2 to 3 times daily on all platforms You want to target social media focusing on your industry, your occupation that you're going into or that you're in, because you want people to think of you. When they think of you, they think of your career. So, like, for
Right.
example, by the information that you post, you may say Jasmine, that's the facilitator. She works for Workforce Solutions. Okay. Or Jason, he's a welder. So when we get into the networking and you may be looking for a different change, or you may be looking for another opportunity in your career, people will know you, know your career based on the information that you post, and they're more likely to reach out to you.
Okay, that makes sense.
So that takes it back to that branding. So for example, when we see a Starbucks logo, we think coffee.
Right. Okay, yeah, that definitely makes a lot of sense. So you're saying post at least two to three times a day, make sure that they are building their personal brand and keep that consistency.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So next we have another poll question. Do you think employers check the dates on your timeline to see if you're posting consistently? Hit or myth? Okay. Now, if you said hit, then you are correct. So a lot of hiring companies do look at your timeline. They look at that social media timeline for a consistent online presence. And so if individuals are branding themselves correctly, then what they're doing is catching the attention of that hiring manager. So like Tiffany just mentioned, if you're posting on a daily or weekly basis, then your friends and family members, they're going to start to get to know you by what you're posting in your online presence. So with that, they have a professional contact. So once you start looking for work, your family and friends, they're going to reach out to those hiring managers and those professional contacts that they may know and refer you to those professional contacts. So then what happens is the hiring managers in turn come to their social media page. They take a look at it, of course. They see that consistency and that you're branding yourself correctly. And then your name will be the one that stands out again from your competition. And, you know, obviously that puts you at the forefront of landing that position. So yes, you definitely want to post a few times a day if you can, because they may be looking at that consistent online presence. So it's definitely something to keep in mind. And with that, we have another poll question. This one is actually one of my favorite questions. Does your online personality play a role in the hiring decision? Hit or myth? All right, I see the chat box. A lot of you are saying yes. And if you said yes, you are correct. You would be surprised, but many recruiters do use LinkedIn and Facebook to screen their possible applicants, and hiring managers use job seekers' social media presence to determine if they want to proceed further based on their online presence. So like we just stated. But the interesting fact is the ultimate hiring factor boils down to the applicant's personality, according to research.
Okay, I'm sorry. I have to interrupt.
Yes.
Okay, so let me get this straight. If we're being measured by our personality on social media, but yet you've got people out there who are photo shopping their images and putting, making themselves look. I'm just going to say, I don't think that the lives that we portray on social media are really the truth. And so I have an issue with this. I mean, first of all, I don't do it. So I guess I'm a social Luddite. I don't do this whole technology social media thing. So, I'm on the bottom of the poll because I don't even exist on social media. So that's where I rank. But, after, researching all this and looking at this, I start to wonder, how valid is this really?
Right. Yeah, no, I totally understand where you're coming from. Because a lot of people are putting on a facade on social media. So I totally understand your point, and I do agree with it. But, I guess they are looking at what you're portraying per se. and, probably bring you in for an interview based on what they see. But I do see your point where everything that they might be displaying on social media could actually be all false. So I think that's a very good point.
I mean, it's your online platform. Just the same as your resume, you want to put information on your resume that speaks to your skills, achievements, knowledge, and abilities. When it comes to social media, yes, I agree with both of you guys. They can make up what they would like for people to see on their social media, but
Right.
Yeah. Cornelius agrees with me. He says the teacher was personable with her personal behavior, got herself fired. So
Yes.
yeah, see, good point, Cornelius. Thank you. See, somebody else agrees with me.
Very valid.
Oh, but I mean, even though she definitely shouldn't have posted anything like that, right, on social media, but she did. She put her personality out there. So there's like someone, I think Soha brought this to light earlier, that say it's the person that's in a PR position, that person needs to be sociable on social media. So
right. Yes.
like take a look at, say, if you're looking for a PR position and you have a person who has thousands of followers, they're very sociable, they're very engaged, very active. And then you have another person that on their resume, they're showing the skills that they can be the person for the job, but they don't have as many followers. They're not engaged. What person would that company pick for a PR position?
Right. Yeah. They're going to go with the person that's more engaging. And that's what basically what they're saying, that, hiring manager, they're not just looking for the skills and knowledge. They are looking at a more in-depth perspective on what's displayed on, that applicant's social media page. So I definitely think that's also a very good point, Tiffany. Okay. So
Cornelius
next.
agrees also, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Oh, that's okay. And so now actually we have another question for Tiffany. What are your tips for Facebook and job searching and networking as well?
Okay, so one, we already realized that we need to be out there. We need to have a social platform. So I would, when it comes to job searching, I would recommend that someone focus on 2 social media platforms. That will be Facebook and LinkedIn. So with Facebook, you want to clean up your page. According to the rubric that we saw earlier, you want to make sure that you have positive sharing, that you're posting your knowledge and your skills, your training, pictures, everything that goes back to what you do for a living and what you would like to do. Next, I would recommend networking in job posting groups. So for Facebook, you have groups where there are over 24,000 people that are all looking for the same type of job or a certain job in a certain area. So in those groups, you want to network with hiring managers, with recruiters, they call them headhunters, also with people who may be looking for a job themselves, because once they are in the company, sometimes their employer will ask them first, hey, do you know anyone? So if you are present on these job posting groups, your chances of getting a job is very likely. So another thing, build up your LinkedIn profile. Your LinkedIn profile is like your online resume. So you want to make sure that you clean your profile up, you put all the jobs that you've worked at, and make it relevant to the companies that you are looking for. And then you want to get endorsements from your colleagues. So, I mean, it's really nice for you to say, hey, I'm a great communicator, or I'm the person for the job. But it's so much better when your old employees or your colleagues, your coworkers, your old boss can say the same thing about you. So get the endorsements from your colleagues to be placed on your page. And when looking at job postings, you want to determine what keywords and skills that employers are looking for. One of the reasons why you want to determine that is because at that point, you know what the employer is looking for. And if you have what they're looking for, you definitely want to highlight those skills and highlight them by posting pictures, posting videos of your job skills, Also, posting articles that you may be that's relevant for you, and then also create some articles, create some blogs. Make sure that those are all just showing your expertise in the field that you're going into.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you so much.
So it sounds like to me that the way to build up your personal brand is to really use social media as maybe more like a portfolio of what you've been doing in your career. Is that correct?
Yes, yes, that's correct.
Okay, and with that, we have another poll question. And this one is, do companies hire candidates based on what they view on their social media channels? Hit or myth? And we just talked about that. So I see people saying yes. Okay, you guys are correct. It's a hit. So we do know that job recruiters will Google applicants. And one of the reasons why is it's fast and easy. It doesn't cost them anything. And again, to reiterate what we discussed earlier, your online presence plays a huge role in the hiring process. Another thing that you can keep in mind is doing an inventory with your by Googling yourself is what I'm trying to say. So you can get that perspective of the hiring manager of what pops up. So you could actually have your students Google their name and, just kind of see what's out there. And I've Googled myself. I don't know if you guys have Googled yourself, but I just kind of Google myself and see pops up, what comes up. And, it's kind of fun. It's kind of interesting, but it's kind of a way to do it from the perspective of the hiring manager. And again, the goal is to increase your online presence and be discovered by that recruiter. And that is achieved by building your personal brand. So you are literally, every one of us is literally a walking brand. That's the best way that I can relate to it. Okay, so next to talk about personal brand some more. It's also a way of communicating. Your personal brand is a form of communicating what makes you unique, what makes you stand out from the next person. Okay, so that is your passions, your beliefs, your values. That makes up your personal brand. And you can even have your students do a mission statement and use that as a framework of their brand. And I know a lot of high schools, they have a mission statement and they have a vision statement. Well, pretty much every high school, has a vision and mission statement. So it's just a way to, create uniqueness and have some kind of brand for that particular school. So it's the same thing with us as individuals. All right.
There's a comment in here.
Oh, yes.
Oh, someone says, when I Google myself, another person comes up with the same name. Can that affect me?
Oh, if they have the same
Okay.
name.
Cornelius.
That's a good question.
That's a great question. But most people that's going to Google you, especially employers, they're already doing detective work. They're already looking for you. So they're going to look for key items of like, one, what do you look like? Also, your email address, your telephone number. Is it the same that's associated with the resume that you put in? So yes, when they Google you, they're looking for you. But if someone else pops up, 9 times out of 10, they're doing the research to find out if you are that person.
Good. Excellent question. So we have another one too. I think Soha was asking, is it a good idea to Google yourself? We're saying yes, because you want to see what you look like, but maybe you can help us understand what your concern is. Soha, if you want to type that in for us. And then another comment, Jasmine, you just said that you want to talk about your beliefs and your values, but I think we need to make sure it's professional, because some people, we've seen what happens when people put out their real beliefs, their true beliefs out there. They get fired for it.
Yes, professional values. Yes, I apologize. Yes, make sure it's your professional values.
So,
because it can go all the way the other direction.
Yeah, it can be your thing. Be careful what beliefs and values you're putting out there, because it needs to be professional. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
And next, we have another question for Tiffany. This is one I like too. How effective is the hashtag for increasing post engagement and content?
Oh my goodness. Hashtag, hashtag, hashtag.
Yes, yes. I hear that all the time.
It's extremely effective. When it comes to different social medias, one, you have an algorithm where you may not show on everyone's page. If you're not active consistently in putting those hashtags, you're not going to be at the forefront of someone that's searching for a hashtag. So basically with hashtags, people that are searching, they're searching for a specific hashtag on whether it be Facebook or Instagram. They're already searching for what you're posting. So if you put a hashtag to it, then you are now in that content for someone that is exploring that content. Now you are at the front of it and they see your information. So basically you being engaged on social media can be within your following. Say you have 2,000 people, but once you put a hashtag, then it opens up for, I'm talking about thousands of people. That increases your engagement numbers just by adding a hashtag. So it's extremely effective, and I say do it.
Okay.
Okay, so I see there was some clarification on the Google comments, because some people have heard that it's good to Google yourself, and others have heard that no, it's not good to do that. And I think where that comes from is, I'm not sure if it's still that case, but the more you Google yourself, the more you come up, the higher you come up on the Google scale, basically. The higher you, anytime someone puts in your name, then you come up higher on the listing, on the list, basically.
Yes, that's what I've heard too. Yes.
Yeah. So if you're trying to promote yourself, as we just discussed with the hashtags, then yeah, it's a good thing. But if that's not what you want, then, because remember, all the information that's out there on the internet will come to you if you Google yourself multiple times. And that may not necessarily be your social media accounts. It could be anything and everything that's out there. So I think with the hashtag, it's more controlled, because now you're focusing your audience into one place. You're routing them to your social media content. So it's a more controlled way of navigating people to your sites, to getting that positive brand image out there. Because I think the point is that if you Google yourself multiple times, you have no idea what's going to come up. That's why you Google yourself, to make sure that what does come up is good, is positive and not negative.
And I'd like to add with that, Victoria, I believe that you should Google yourself. I have some people in the comments that say they have very unique names, and information like your telephone number, your address will pull up. Same with me. So I believe you should Google yourself so you can see what others are seeing. And once you see what others are seeing, if that's negative, you have a chance to get in front of it so you can change the narrative. Also, if there is information like your telephone number or your address is out there, typically it's websites like White Page and Been Verified. You can go to those websites and ask for your information to be taken down.
Ah, good to know. That's right. You can do that. You can get yourself blocked. If you work for a public or a nonprofit or a state organization, then guess what? Your information is public. I worked for Texas State University, and I could Google myself and everybody knew that I worked at Texas State University. So it works like that too.
Yeah.
So you just, you may not have control over it, but I think what Tiffany is saying is valid. You can get in front of it so that, now I did with the university, and I told them I want my information private. And so they did. So all you could see was that, yes, I worked at the university. You can see my salary, which I didn't like, but you couldn't get my personal information. So you didn't know where I lived. So that was good news.
Yeah, no, that is good news. We don't want everybody knowing, where we live, especially if we have, situations where somebody may have tried to, like crazy people look for you or something of that nature. All right. So next we have another poll question. This one is personal branding includes the emotion someone feels when he or she thinks about you. Hit or miss? And that is true. It's a hit. So while conducting your job search, personal branding does include the emotion someone feels when he or she thinks about you. So I mean, I just think about, just when you hear somebody's name, what do you feel? Do you smile or do you cringe on the inside? I mean, so I mean, that's just the truth about it. It's just what it is. We do have emotion about how we feel about certain people, and we can't change how someone may feel about us. Okay, it's something that we cannot control. However, you can control how you present yourself on your social media platforms. Okay, so it's gonna work out. So, yeah.
Do I bring a smile to your face when you think about me,
Right.
Jasmine?
I know, right? Do I bring a smile to you now by what I'm posting? But yes, so when you're viewing yourself as a personal brand, it can definitely help your job search tremendously because you're giving yourself choices and options, okay? And you're also giving yourself room to be objective, in other words. So definitely something to keep in mind. And here we have an acronym for you that you can use before you post or with your students or whoever you'd like to share this with. T, is it true? H, is it helpful? I, is it inspiring? N, is it necessary? K, is it kind? So I really like this.
Yeah, I do too. I think this is a great acronym to think before you post. I like
Right.
that.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah. Don't try to be witty. Don't try to be, don't try to go for satire because it's going to backfire. Oof.
Right. I like that. And I don't know if you guys have any questions for us. We hope that this webinar has inspired you and given you some insight and practical tools that you can use in your classroom or even for yourself, and teach you how to avoid the pitfalls of social media. But on the other hand, how to create a positive professional social media image. And feel free to contact us with any additional questions at your convenience.
Excellent. So thank you so much for your time. We appreciate you being here with us today. And I guess, Tiffany, we want to thank you very much for joining us today. It was a pleasure having you with us. And and we look forward to meeting with you guys again.
Thank you, Jasmine, Victoria, and Tiffany.